How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping out another video. Right, guys. Sadly and tragically, this is about a prisoner suicide. It's nearly 3 years. It'll be 3 years in February since this took place. It's nevertheless any shocking, and still breaks me heart, man. The story's only just come out a day or two ago, yesterday, and I have to cover it. And this year, right, every time I cover prison news, I don't care what the news is, I'm covering it and I bring it to you guys, right? Whether you want to hear it or not. Not everyone watches every vlog. Some people do, some people don't. And I'm dropping so many videos that my numbers, if I drop one video a week, I'd get a lot of views on that one video, but I'm dropping several a day. So people are behind and don't catch up, and then they think, oh, I'm going to miss that, I'm going to catch that one. But this year I've covered a lot of suicides in prison. And on the back of a lot of these vlogs that I've done, where I'm putting the tags for the prisoner's name, God bless any prisoner that's tragically taken their own life this year, my thoughts and prayers are still with your family. The family have seen the vlogs, a lot of the families have seen the vlogs and reached out to me. I had the ex-girlfriend of a prisoner who took his own life recently, and she was like, she messaged me on Facebook and she was slagging him off. Don't stick up for people you don't know. He did this to me, he did that to me, he beat me, all that stuff. And I'm like, I was on the phone to her. I was like, babe, I said, you're channeling your anger at a man that is no longer with us. So you don't speak ill of the dead. Do you know what I mean? I said, he done wrong to you. I said, he didn't deserve to pay with his life. And she was like, yeah, but it was a cowardice act. I said, cowardice act? I said, do you know how much balls it takes to actually carry through with a suicide? Some people get on the buzzer and they're standing there with a razor blade saying, I don't want to be on basic, you give me a TV or I'm going to slash this artery, right? And it's emotional blackmail to get what they want, right? Other prisoners don't say anything. They just go away and they don't get on the buzzer and they take their own life. And I've spoken to so many prisoners' families this year, twin sisters of prisoners, partners, girlfriends, mothers, sisters, brothers. Suicides in prison break my heart, genuinely do. No one deserves to leave prison in a body bag. No worse place on earth, depressing place to die on earth than a cell. No way at all. Anyway, guys, sorry, I started going on a bit of a rant there. This is a story from the Wales Online. Link in the description below, like I always do. Headline reads, Parc prison inmate who became delirious because of the drug spice hanged himself in the shower room. Illicit drugs were said to be readily available at the Welsh prison following an inspection in 2016. There's a picture of Jeffrey Griffiths. Looks like quite a big unit, actually. Thoughts and prayers are with Jeffrey's family. I know it's nearly 3 years on, but you still pay your respect to our fallen. An inmate who became delirious after smoking a lot of spice hanged himself in Bridgend's HMP Parc prison. Jeffrey Griffiths, 35, God bless him, may rest in peace, thoughts and prayers are with your family, was found hanged in a shower room in the prison on the February the 11th of 2016, just weeks after being diagnosed with drug-induced delirium, caused by the use of new psychoactive substance such as spice. Mr. Griffiths, from the Ravenhill area of Swansea, was jailed for 7 years in September 2013 after being convicted of robbery. Having been remanded to HMP Swansea, Mr. Griffiths, who had a history of substance misuse, depression and self-harm, was transferred to the Bridgend prison in August of 2015. In a report by the Prison and Probation Ombudsman published this week, Nigel Newcomen, CBE, wrote, Mr. Griffiths was subject to prison service suicide and self-harm prevention monitoring at the time of his death. How the fucking hell did he manage to hang himself then? Oh, he hung himself in the showers, guys, according to this report. Mentally ill prisoners with mental health issues, shouldn't be in prison. They should be in psychiatric units. But psychiatric units cost about 7, 8 times what it does to house you in prison. Unfortunately, we found weaknesses in the management of these arrangements. No shit, Sherlock. As we have in previous investigations at Parc, particularly that the prison did not properly identify or address all of Mr. Griffiths' known factors. However, I do not consider that this behaviour was concerning immediately prior to his death, that the level of check-in to which he was subject should have been higher. He added, the investigation also added Mr. Griffiths' probable use of new psychoactive substances at Parc and their possible impact on his mental health. I echo the concerns raised by Her Majesty's Inspector of Prisons and the Independent Monitoring Board about the need for more effort to address both supply and demand for illicit drugs at the prison. In the report, it was said Mr. Griffiths tried to hang himself on December the 31st, and staff began ACT procedures. ACT is the Prison Service Healthcare Planning System used to support prisoners at risk of suicide or self-harm. The purpose of ACT is to try to determine the level of risk, how to reduce the risk, and how to best monitor and supervise the prisoner. Mr. Griffiths said he was depressed about the custody issues concerning his children, felt paranoid and wanted to die, it was said in the report. He was referred for mental health support over the next 4 days. Mr. Griffiths harmed himself twice and was moved to the safer custody unit for closer monitoring. On January the 5th, the nurse referred Mr. Griffiths to the mental health InReach team for assessment. Mr. Griffiths said he had smoked a lot of spice, a synthetic cannabinoid known as new psychoactive substance, over Christmas. Mr. Griffiths remained paranoid and anxious and seriously harmed himself again on January the 8th, it stated in the report. And on January the 26th, a prison doctor diagnosed Mr. Griffiths with drug-induced delirium caused by new psychoactive substance use. The doctor did not prescribe any medication and Mr. Griffiths was not referred for substance misuse support. You can't make this stuff up, man. The report stated that Mr. Griffiths saw his offender supervisor and a substance misuse offender supervisor in February of 2016. When he told them he'd been injecting amphetamines and methadone for 15 years and had been smoking spice for 3 years. Have you noticed though, he was jailed in 2013 and he was remanded and then he was sentenced and he'd been in jail for 3 years and for the same 3 years he'd been smoking spice. That drug is horrific. What it does to prisoners and what it does to prisoners' families and the debt then spirals out of control and it becomes the prisoners' families' fault, problem. They've got to pay for it because they fear that if they don't pay for it, the loved ones are going to be done in. He said that since he had last smoked spice in December of 2015, he'd become very paranoid and dreamt that he'd done something bad to a family member. In the report, it said, during the February the 11th, Mr. Griffiths was quiet and a little withdrawn, but staff were not particularly concerned about him. At about 6:10 p.m, Mr. Griffiths spoke to his sister and said he couldn't cope anymore. At around 6:25 p.m, Mr. Griffiths went to the shower unit, and about 6:40, an officer found Mr. Griffiths hanged. Staff and paramedics tried to unsuccessfully to resuscitate Mr. Griffiths, and at 7:35 p.m, paramedics recorded that he had died. Preliminary post-mortem examination found the cause of Mr. Griffiths' death was pressure on the neck, hanging. A toxicology report found evidence of Mr. Griffiths' prescribed medication, fluoxetine, but no evidence of any other drugs, including new psychoactive substances. In the report, it stated that in a recent inspection in January of 2016, Her Majesty's Inspector of Prisons reported that illicit drugs were readily available at Parc Prison. It continued, new psychoactive substances are an increasing problem across the prison and immigration detention estates. They are difficult to detect as they are not identified in current drug screening tests. Now that was then, right? They're talking retrospectively because as of, it was 2017 when you could detect spice on drugs tests, in my experience anyway. Yeah. They were talking retrospectively. At the time, back in 2016, you couldn't detect spice. Men in drug tests, MDT or VDT, voluntary drug tests, mandatory drug tests. Many new psychoactive substances contain synthetic cannabinoids which can produce experiences similar to cannabis. Not really. New psychoactive substances are usually made up of dried, shredded plant material with chemical additives and are smoked. New psychoactive substance could affect the body in a number of ways, including increasing heart rate, raising blood pressure, reducing blood supply to the heart, and vomiting, the report added. Psychological effects can include psychosis and hallucinations, depression and suicidal thoughts, antisocial or paranoid behaviours, and emotional and erratic behaviour, as well as emerging evidence of dangers to both physical and mental health. There are other links to suicide and self-harm. The report concluded Mr. Griffiths' mental health problems had appeared to be linked to his heavy use of new psychoactive substances over the Christmas period. However, we were concerned that he was not referred to substance misuse services until February the 8th, 3 days before he took his own life. We are satisfied that Mr. Griffiths received appropriate mental health care. Well, you're going to because you're corrupt. Although we are not concerned that referral to the mental health in-reach team was delayed. Well, you should have been because he took his own life. The report recommended that the director should ensure the staff manage prisoners at risk of suicide or self-harm in line with national guidelines, in particular involving the prisoner's family, that would be beneficial to, and staff recording relevant information, among others. It added the director and head of healthcare should ensure that it is clear the pathway for mental health services, which ensures that prisoners identified as at risk of suicide or self-harm have urgent mental health assessment within 3 days. 3 days, it should be seen the next day. The director should ensure this is an effective substance misuse strategy to help reduce the availability and demand for new psychoactive substances. That staff are vigilant for signs of its use and are briefed about how to respond when prisoners appear to be under the influence of such substances. The report stated that Mr. Griffiths was the third apparently self-inflicted death at Parc prison since 2014. And there has been one since. It added that it previously raised concerns about the management of the ACT process. It continued, the most recent inspection of Parc was in January of 2016. Although inspectors noted there was a high number of incidents of self-harm, ACT documents were completed to a good standard. I hate the coroner's reports and stuff. They always seem to wipe the arse. The prison probation ombudsman and stuff. Inspectors found that mental health provision was inadequate. Well, there we go. Finally something positive. Well, not positive, a negative being highlighted. Last month, 2 inmates died at the prison. The 2 inmates were found unresponsive inside their prison cells on separate days in less than a week. But officials said their deaths were not connected. Inquests for both men have been listed for May the 10th. And a spokesman for the Prison and Probation Ombudsman confirmed 2 investigations were underway. Earlier this month, a report found the prison officer who unlocked a cell didn't spot an inmate was dying. Probably did and turned a blind eye. The men's prison house is around 1,600 convicted men and young adults, both convicted and on remand. It also has a unit for 60 young people under the age of 18. The facility is managed by G4S, that's your problem, on behalf of the prison service and is the only private prison in Wales. Director of HMP Parc, Janet Walsgrove, director just means governor. The loved ones of Mr. Griffiths remain in our thoughts at this difficult time. No, they don't. Just empty words. We have fully accepted the Prison and Probation Ombudsman recommendation and a full review has been completed with our secondary provider of mental health care. Staff are regularly reminded of their responsibilities to record all interactions with prisoners on acts, and further triggers around mental health and behavioural concerns are routinely reviewed and discussed as part of the ACT case review. She's got all the answers every time that, we've learned from the recommendations, we're doing this, until the next death. There's been 2 deaths since, 3 deaths since. There's a regular contact between prison managers carrying out these reviews, and the family and prisoners are strongly encouraged to maintain family ties. We have developed a new psychoactive substance strategy and action plan, and our substance misuse strategy is reviewed annually and focuses on reducing the availability and demand of all substances, including new psychoactive substances. We use all our records of new psychoactive substance incidents to identify trends, providing further support to prisoners identified as using new psychoactive substances and have a clear disciplinary and testing process. For confidential support, the Samaritans can be contacted for free around the clock, 365 days a year on 116 123. That's 116 123. Call them if you need to. Shocking, guys. Well, not shocked, but my thoughts and prayers are with Jeffrey Griffiths' family. He looked to be a very big lad, and mental health problems can come on whilst you're in prison, 1,000,000%. I like how they tried to blame his mental health on the misuse of the drugs. It doesn't help mental health issues, and it goes right the other way. He should have been on antipsychotic and like depression medication and sertraline and diazepam and stuff like that to balance him out if he's chemically imbalanced in his brain or he's depressed or whatever, to lift his mood. People choose not to take the medication, or they try to cheat the medication by keeping it in the mouth and then selling it to somebody, because any medication has got a value in prison. I've seen people on methadone scripts, green liquid methadone, and they've kept it, yeah boss, yeah, I'm gonna walk out, spit it into a cup and someone else drinks it. It's fucking vile, man. I couldn't do that personally. He's probably already suffering mental health issues. That's the reality. When you're in prison, it starts mental health issues and it makes them worse if you've already got them, and believe me, a lot of prisons have them. The fact that he rang his sister 15 minutes before he sought to take his own life is just so sad. Just saying that he can't go on, you know what I mean? Another prisoner leaving prison and a bodyguard, guys. Another prison governor telling him, we've learned lessons, we've learned lessons. No, they haven't. No, they haven't at all. All very, like, do you know what I mean? Just like empty words. That's the reality. More prisoners are going to continue to die on these prisons' clocks. G4S are not fit to run a bath. Mental health services are inadequate in prison, and healthcare in general in prisons is inadequate. There's a lot of good nurses and stuff doing a lot to try and help prisoners, but a lot of people just don't care. Prisoners, aren't they? Lock us up, throw away the key. Who cares? If we're leaving a body bag, we're leaving a body bag. That's those on the right side of the tracks. Me and the prison reform group and my subscribers, we always pay tribute to people that lose their lives in prison in this way, don't we? Unless it's a paedophile or a rapist, then we don't care. My thoughts and prayers with Jeffrey's family. Nearly 3 years on. Have you noticed in the article how it made reference to the 2 deaths a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago or a few months ago at Parc prison within a few days of each other? Have you noticed how they haven't stated whether it was a suicide or whether it was natural causes? Have you noticed that? Because if it was to say suicide causes moral outrage, doesn't it? People want to know why. Prisoners' families go to the media. If you lose a loved one in prison in this way, please, please, please go to the media. Speak out, pay tribute to your son, your daughter, or your child, because we've got kids in jail, we've got female offenders, and obviously we've got male like prisoners as well. If you lose a loved one in this way, and they've been failed by the prison, take it to the locals, nationals. Someone will listen to your story. Someone will run the story. Prison is big news, and your loved one, if they can sweep a death under the carpet, they'll be swept under the carpet. The 2 men that died at Parc, we still don't know their names. This is the reality. I'm going to keep an eye on the Prison and Probation Ombudsman website, and if it comes up with their names, I'll bring it to you guys as soon as I get it. But I think they're saying that they're not scheduled till May the 10th next year. They wait for there's been a death. Right? They don't run to the media, by the way, and get these stories out. It'll be a prison source. It could be a corrupt officer or an officer that's getting paid by a journalist or a prisoner's family that says, yep, there's been 2 deaths in the prison. The prisoner then are forced to confirm it, because if they don't, do you know what I mean? It comes out anyway. Anyway, guys, I've waffled on long enough. I've got a sore throat. I'm tired. I was supposed to do another 2 vlogs, but I'm going to do them tomorrow because I'm tired and I just want to chill. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.